Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and thank you all for joining today from very different parts of the world, and welcome to the second edition of the FIWARE Smart Cities Day. My name is Ángeles Tejado. I am a project manager at the FIWARE Foundation, and first of all, I will give some few recommendations before we start. We ask all attendees please to mute your microphones and turn your cameras off during the presentation to avoid connectivity issues. This is a live event and is being recorded. That means that by attending this event, you agree to the recording, and this recording will be made available on FIWARE's YouTube channel afterwards. Should any of you have any question, and we highly encourage you to do so, please drop them into the chat and add which speaker the question is for. In addition, I take the opportunity to thank you, our media partners, this time Business Reporter, Compass List, Smart Cities World, and Zoom Global Smart Cities for their incredible work disseminating this event. Now, for those of you meeting us for the first time, FIWARE Foundation is a non-profit organization that drives the definition and encourage the adoption of open standards, all of them implemented using open source technologies to ease the development of a smart digital solution in multiple domains. Please keep an eye out for the links being dropped into the chat. Be sure to check them out and get familiar with us. Now, before we get this event started, I would like to bring your attention to our Smart Cities survey that aims to create the best smart cities reference catalog for cities based on FIWARE. If you are or you know a company, individual or public administration developing solutions and platforms with FIWARE, we highly encourage you to participate in this survey. The link can also be found in the chat. Secondly, I'm happy to announce that our Smart Cities Events Network is up and running, and we are waiting for your contributions. We want to become the biggest event platform dedicated to open, sustainable, and smart cities worldwide. The link can also be found in the chat, and you are more than welcome, as I said, to register and upload your events. Now let's welcome today's speakers lineup. Renato de Castro will moderate the session as a smart city expert. We will have Bettina Tratz-Ryan from Gartner, Joao Rodrigues Frade from the European Commission, Jyot Chadha from the New Urban Mobility Alliance, NUMO, Juanjo Hierro from the FIWARE Foundation, Yasunori Mochizuki from NEC Corporation in Japan, Dr. Inder Gopal from the Indian Urban Data Exchange IUDX program and Indian Institute of Science in Bangalore, India, Dr. Antonio Skarmeta from the Murcia Smart City Project in Spain, Heber Assaf from Arnaldo Castro in Montevideo, and Ulrich, Ahle, and Cristina Brandtstetter from the FIWARE Foundation. I will now hand it over to the person who will be steering the direction of this important dialogue today, someone who needs no introduction, but here is a short one anyway. Renato de Castro is a smart city expert and the author of the book, The Startup City. He is the CEO of SmartUp, a consulting firm from Barcelona, specialized in digital transformation for cities. And he is member of the board of directors at Leading Cities from Boston. He is also an international ambassador for the Rio Operation Center in Brazil. To date, Renato has visited more than 30 countries, lectures about smart cities, and advised governments on urban projects. The stage is yours, Renato. Welcome.
Thank you very much, Ángeles. Well, welcome everyone, and it's really nice because we have almost all the time zones in the globe covered today. So I'm very happy from America to Japan. We have not only attendees but also speakers that will be with us today. So it's a really a great pleasure for me to be moderating these events today. Well, before starting and calling our colleagues to the stage, I would like just to share with you some insights that we are having mainly here in Europe about what is happening with us and what's happening in our society, and what will be the consequences for our city. So yeah, well, these last basically these last 8 months, I'm based in Italy. I was supposed to be traveling the whole world as always, but I was somehow stuck here with the pandemic, and I started working for the local government in a task force regarding the pandemic. And we have been starting not only trying to mitigate the problems, but also trying to understand the big picture to come. So basically what we have developed here, and we are calling these trends the economy kilometer 4.0. It's based in 3 premises that we believe that will happen, and I would like to discuss with you. And all of these 3 trends, they are trends that were already happening, but the COVID came to catalyze these trends. So the first one is, well, we have been going for the last 40 years in a very interesting hype of globalization. I did myself a lot of my academic journey into the globalization. I did my master's in Germany a long time ago, 20 years ago, in globalization. But we see that there was already a trend in focusing or putting more efforts in what we are calling localization. We are not going to be local, deeply local again, but local aspects will be very, very important in the next steps, and mainly will be somehow reframing our cities. And COVID came to catalyze all these trends. So we see, I spent some time living in Barcelona, and there in Barcelona, I participated, saw the project called Super Island, where they brought all the sense of neighborhood inside the district and try to avoid traffic in this district, giving back the streets to the citizens in this street. Really nice. Now Carlos Moreno in Paris, he's doing a very nice project called 15-minute city. If you never heard about it, I advise you to see. It's the same concept. You bring all the facilities, all the commodities, everything that citizens need in a range of 15 kilometers far from their houses, and you keep this sense of district, and it's much easier to go through a smart city in a big city if you go like this. So localization is a trend, and we really cannot deny this. Second one is, well, we were already in the fourth industrial revolution, and technology and hyper technology was already a trend. But what I see now here is that we are going to put more efforts in technologies that are related to our daily problems. Maybe huge investments to life in Mars in 200 years will not be so often as it was in the past, but now investments in urban projects, mainly in startups that are bringing solutions that solve our daily problems, we see that these will start popping up. One example of this was Zoom. Zoom in the last 8 months get a very, very huge investment and valuation in the price. Now Zoom worth more than the 7th large air companies all together. And these guys, they have airplanes, they have terminals, they have everything. And Zoom basically was a technology already there, simple, but well, very valid in these times of pandemic. So I see that these kind of technologies will pop up, and this will be an opportunity. And of course, here, FIWARE, we are here exactly to discuss about these open data and let's say universal standards, IoT. So this will become more and more important. And the last one, just to end my first participation, is that we had this age of city states in the past. I think that that history it happens in cycles, and we are back to these. Cities are gaining much more attention now. It was already a little bit before the COVID like this, but now it's also the time of the small cities. I see a lot of nice projects, city as a platform projects rising from small cities, not only from big cities. And these small cities, they were more resilient to these changes, harder than big cities like London or New York, that we saw a lot of let's say a lot of problems. Even if they were already very smart, they still had a lot of problems with the COVID. So maybe we are not going to be talking so much about smartness, but much more about resilience. And that's is about our cities and the life in our cities. So basically, these are these let's say new paradigm that we see here. We are going super local and hyper technological. Not new, but in a different way, and I deeply believe in it. So, well, to start this long journey today, I would like to introduce our first keynote speaker of the night is Bettina Tratz-Ryan. She's a vice president research in Gartner's industry research team, responsible for intelligent urban ecosystem research that includes smart city and industry stakeholders, as well as the digitalization efforts in the manufacturing ecosystems. As part of her smart city research, she analyzed the strategic citizens impact and the business value and data information analytics, Internet of Things, open data marketplace, application, and complex architectures for cities. So please, Bettina, welcome to our stage. I had to put in my glasses, otherwise I cannot read. Bettina, please join us.
Thank you. I hope you can hear me.
Yes, now I can hear you.
Yes, I can.
Yes, perfect. Thank you so much for this opportunity, and that's a great introduction that you had given us. Smartness will become very important, but more important will be the increasing rate of digitalization that we have within our daily lives, in our environments, and for that, data will become very important. And for the next couple of minutes, I just want to show you a little bit what we have seen in our research with our conversations with cities on how data is transforming actually the knowledge base for smartness going forward. So digital has transformed many of our personal experiences, how we read and how we actually distribute knowledge all over the world. Especially during COVID, we have gained access to healthcare and medical attention without going to the doctors, and even more in delivering access to health to many of the remote locations worldwide. Digital has also changed the way we are applying our skills in the industry, not just to only build certain products, but also how we augment and scale our skills and become more creative. And finally, thinking about digital, in the new normal, digital allows us to break out of our comfort zone. Understanding that a single QR code that you see here on the table will allow us to go back to our social life in a healthy way by opting to share information about our private lives. So in urbanization, digitalization is already present on various levels between entire city ecosystems. But many cities are very unique in their characteristics. So we need approaches to apply those unique factors towards a broader smart city goal that can be guided through data. So what we have seen is that a lot of projects in cities today, small cities, big cities, and these projects, they come with different backgrounds, maybe on optimization of traffic, looking at sustainability in terms of air quality managing, parking, streetlights, and so on. So while we have all of these great projects, we cannot go through this creativity and create a great vision. So what we need actually in smart cities to make them smart is an ecosystem view or a collaboration view between city government, of course, but furthermore, the industry, the entrepreneurs within the city, and we need to start to engage on various levels in terms of best practice sharing, maybe also opinions. What do I need? What are the key critical areas that I want to have improvements on? How do I feel personally? But between creating silos and actually connecting them into a governance framework, so to speak, that allows us that sharing and developing of smart services, we need something very important. We need good urban data, and we need a governance around urban data to create the trust and, so to speak, the rule book to apply data sharing and data learning across different stakeholders. And that data basically can come from various sources. They can come from the digital twins and the IoT sensors that feeding digital twins with all kinds of multi-dimensional views, all the way to 5G and Wi-Fi or virtual reality and mixed reality. There are lots of use cases that are enabled to technology, and that technology is driving a lot of the data collection. But that just gives us data. So what are we doing with this data to create or take ourselves out of these silos into a greater vision? Let me give you an example. Copenhagen is a wonderful example about how to build data learnings from different data sources that they have implemented across the city, starting with connectivity to build and deliver data from different data sources on streetlights and poles, IoT on waste bins, and taking data from connected vehicles, from traffic management and parking. But they took the data to really create one big view on their sustainable city strategy. So they were grooming all the data on the perspectives of how can this data not only optimize our different projects, but how can it also provide us with a tapestry towards a greater sustainability and climate change vision of the city. Data can provide much more visibility. This next example comes from New York. This is actually the island of Manhattan. On each colored square that you can see here on the picture actually represents a collection of different open data sets that were put together, and they tell a story about that specific location or furthermore that specific building. This is data from building permits and from licenses. This is from surrounding data from the location, like parking and so on. What do you think would be worse for somebody who's buying a real estate in that area to understand what are the challenges or maybe opportunities within the building structure, infrastructure within that street or intersection? So this becomes a very interesting environment of visualization for lots of different data sets. So taking it out of the silo and putting it into the picture. I have another great example around how you can use data to actually build pictures around opinions. This is a new program from the city in Hamburg. It's about digital citizen participation. All these little icons that you see here on the map actually represent a set of data opinions from people, either through a hackathon or a survey or an inquiry or some sort of engagement that is collected and analyzed in terms of its representation of the issues or grievances that some of the people in this section have or around that section have. And that becomes very interesting because this is a tapestry of taking information back to people. So actually start trying to tell them how to actually data is used to reflect on what their outcome could be for the people. Another example here is Smarter London. They have used the data from the data store to actually look into how to interpret that using a NGO, Nesta, to create these data stories and innovating based on these data stories. And what I'm showing here is that this becomes a application and a data-free kind of environment for people to understand what is happening, how data can be used, and how actually it in turn allows people to understand based on these data sets what kind of activities are currently ongoing in the city. It also allows machine learning and other kind of chatbots to read and understand the requirements as well as the outcomes from certain questions. So what I'm showing you here is that when we speak a lot about we need to use data and we need to apply data, there are various different ways in which data can be actually a foundation for a conversation between citizen, the ecosystem of industries and businesses, and also in between government. But what we need in order to build all of this is good data governance, as I had mentioned in the beginning. So I have a picture here that actually shows how data governance has to work. And there's a little bit delay in the platform, so I apologize if there's the build will take a little bit longer. But what you see here is a four-pronged approach around how data governance has to be implemented. We need to talk about data curation. So how can actually data be collected? What kind of qualifications and qualities does it have? To data management, meaning how do we technically, operational, on a business level, will be using data, metadata, and providing a 360 view really around what we want to accomplish. This already gives trust with the industry and with the citizenship to really believe that this is not just a free for all, but there is some structure and governance that sits behind it. They are in control. One of the key areas that we're seeing missing is the one around the data oversight. When we look into data qualification, data privacy, we need to have some sort of audit trail. And I think this is a call also for some of the cities to think about how to build that auditable mechanism into their data strategies, maybe through a service provider or maybe to an in-house independent agency. And the last one is the data orchestration. And more, we're seeing cities taking out of their open data platforms into an environment where they really want to create a vibrant ecosystem of data exchanges between the industry, between citizens and entrepreneurs, knowledge centers, as well as the government. So when we look into this framework or we look into this template, what we see is a maturity level of the discussions around how we can apply data. However, the navigation to the new normal of the ecosystem has to come to an understanding that there is a lot of different data sets that can be connected together, but there are also some really, really awesome use cases that we see already. So one of the use cases that we have, and I'm building this out already, is for instance around Smell City. And Smell City is taking a lot of the IoT data together with some social media and actually categorizing the location together with some of the sentiment that some people bring. And this is actually a private company that is building out the 7th generation to build out that data towards pollution and also all kinds of like smelly distances, so to speak. You also have here with location-based data that actually look into not just connected cars, but all kind of like data sets that are related towards safety features for pedestrians, bicycle lanes, but also in COVID time around how we can actually bring in better mobility options into cities to avoid large crowds and public transportation. One of the interesting part is also the chatbot data that you need. I was talking about this before, where basically like in Vienna, you have lots of Q&A, natural language processing, that is being processed in the chatbot. I find that very important because this is democratizing the access to information. Chatbots, natural language processing is actually allowing people with not a lot of the digital skills to actually have the access towards insights that are being generated to the digital backend that we don't know about. The data exchange mechanism is the one that will really allow that contextualization and the success of multiple data points to be standardized and available to everybody happen. And if you call it data marketplace, data exchange, I mean, this is an emerging kind of environment. And of course, the FIWARE approaches are very important in this. So the challenge really here is to create a trusted kind of governance environment between the production of data, so kind of like inserting the data into an exchange, and of course the agreeable consumption of the data to the privacy of the contextualization and business models. So this was my overview about how we actually see the urgency of data exchanges and data governance developing. And we would just recommend, if you look into smart city, to really look at the objectives and the data modeling with the stakeholders in mind, building governance and data exchange mechanisms, and also the service model so that we can have the variety of different use cases that I mentioned before. So thank you very much, and I'm happy to take questions to the chat at any time.
Thank you very much, Bettina. Thank you also for following the time strictly. So fantastic, you have no delays today. Just a small announcement. Bettina unfortunately cannot stay with us till the Q&A session. She has to leave a little bit in advance.
Right, yeah.
So she will be taking the questions in the chat. Bettina, we already have some questions for you there in the chat. People are already excited to discuss with you about data. And yeah, well, actually, through FIWARE, we have been working a lot of different projects regarding data, and especially I participate myself in a project in Vienna that was a smart data lake, and we see how data is important exactly as this key to this tool to engage citizens. You know, I loved your concept of digital collection of ideas using data. That's exactly the way we can build a smarter society. So Bettina, thank you very much. Well, let's move to our second guest of the day, Joao Rodrigues Frade. Joao is an experienced enterprise architect specialized in large complex projects with a decade in management positions. As a consultant, he has assisted numerous organizations in several sectors, aligning their businesses, data, technology, and architecture. Joao, thank you very much. The stage is yours.
So good afternoon, everyone from Brussels. I'm going to present today, I would say, a high-level view of what we are doing in Europe with regards to what we call the digital transition that Renato was presenting. Also a lot about the need of data and the smart use of data. So first, I would like to, of course, thank you for inviting us to give this presentation. It's always a pleasure to be with the FIWARE family, and we really appreciate this opportunity. Of course, this is going to be a presentation from a public sector perspective, which means that I'm going to explain how the European Commission is currently helping the member states, so the countries in Europe, to become more digital. And I will not be talking directly about cities, but I believe that the concepts that I will present are applicable to any level. So it can be a member state, can be a region, can be a city, and they are quite useful. After seeing Renato's presentation, I think mine will be a bit more boring, but I hope that you can take something for your own projects back at home. So I come from the European Commission. The European Commission has many different director generals. We call them DGs. So I don't come from the director general that is actually responsible for smart cities policy. I come from DIGIT, the director general for informatics. And that means that we actually do technical work. We do digital implementation, and we help the implementation of the policy side. And as I explained, I will give a presentation on e-government in general and on the idea of digital transition. So a city needs to put its public services online. It needs more and more to interact online with its citizens, with businesses, with other public administrations, other governmental entities. So how can we actually get connected? How can we actually put our services online? How do we do this? So I will start with some background. Then I will use that background to put all this in this perspective of how do you transform public administrations? How do you transform a city? And then I will end with a call for action. So how can you actually help us spread the word? I hope this makes sense to everyone. So on the background, of course, this is about Europe. I'm connecting actually from Brussels, even though I'm originally from Lisbon. So bom dia, or boa tarde in this case. And I will start with I would say the main messages. So if we think about transformation, the first concern that we have to have in mind, I believe, and this applies again to any level of government, is trust. So a transformation of this level and of this magnitude requires trust. So we want to move to a digital society, but we have to do it in a trustworthy way. So people have to trust when they use a public service online that the result will be similar as the one that they had when they were there in person. And you can see this now in the American elections. You can see this everywhere. Trust is a main topic of the digital transformation. So we need to trust government, and government has to take trust very seriously when it does transform itself into digital government. The second message is about the role of government. So we are talking about smart cities. Now I'm a bit more generic. So government can really help the economic recovery that we will go through now, and that, you know, is caused by the pandemic that is still not over, and we are living through quite trying times all over the globe. And we need to use this as an opportunity, even though there's a lot of hurt, there's a lot of course, question marks, but we have to also look at the opportunity of a recovery that helps us, on one hand, with the digital transformation, but also with the green transition. So we are talking about a twin transformation, going digital and going green in Europe. So this is what we call shaping a digital Europe. So the European Commission, of course, is in its setting, helping the member states by doing two things. So we look at Europe is, of course, a constellation of different member states. So what we are helping the member states with is creating, first and foremost, a regulatory framework, because we need to look at this across borders. So we cannot just look at this country by country. We want to create a European regulatory framework that is friendly for this digital transition so that we don't create barriers, but in this case, digital barriers. So this is why Europe is invested in data privacy and has a specific, very important regulation, which is shown on the screen. You can Google it afterwards. And we are also very invested in the idea of digital ID, digital identification. Again, all this related to trust and regulating what we call trust services. And there we have another regulation, which is known as IUDX, and you can Google it afterwards. So these are fundamental pieces, and there are many others, but we need to create a single digital regulation so that things can happen across borders and not only within the member states, so that cities can also be interoperable with other cities in other member states. But we are not only looking at regulation, which is a very important element, we are also looking at enablement. So how do you enable cities and member states to become digital services online so that we can more easily, of course, do everything we need without even needing to leave our homes? Well, we need first and foremost money, right? So we need funding. So the Commission is putting forward a number of mechanisms, and we also need what we call building blocks or reusable solutions. So we need digital solutions that can be applied to the common problems of all the member states. So let's look into the funding. Here are some examples in Europe. Europe, as you might know, is currently putting together the so-called Recovery and Resilience Facility for helping member states to recover from the pandemic. So this is a very large facility that you can go and check online that will help member states to receive grants and to receive loans so that they can finance their projects, including the digital transition, but also the green transition. And this will be a very important mechanism that member states will be using in the next years. Another important program that we are putting together in Europe is the Digital Europe program. So there we have around $6 billion that we will be investing in helping the member states adopt digital technologies in different sectors and for different purposes. We are also having a follow-on to the Connecting Europe Facility program that will be about connectivity. So this will range from broadband, 5G, and many other things. And we are putting together Invest EU funding program as well that will also feed into the digital goals of Europe. In addition to that, we have a number of other already quite known mechanisms that help the member states to get funding and to be able to, well, put the resources to work and get their projects ahead and make, of course, cities smarter. But I would also say create the ecosystem that is needed around it so that society can go digital. So let's look into the other element, which is about reusable solutions. When we go digital, typically what we have seen with the member states in Europe is that they have common problems, and the same would happen with cities. So when cities are undergoing this journey, they will all sort of face the same issues. So then the question is, why should they all then try to solve it on their own? Why can we not find a common way to solve the same problem that is reoccurring again and again and again? So what in Europe we came up with is this idea of a building block. So if we have common problems, probably we can give the member states, cities, common solutions. So this is why we have put together a number of building blocks, and one of them comes from FIWARE, the context broker, to help them make this digital transition in the smartest way possible, meaning cooperating with each other and, of course, learning from each other and being able, by implementing these building blocks, to become interoperable so that they don't, in the end of the day, become separated when going digital. We want to get them connected and able to exchange data. So let's look at some of these building blocks. So we are talking about identification, which is extremely important in the digital world. We are talking about secure exchange of information online. This is e-delivery, signing, of course, digitally, super important, e-signature. We're also looking at blockchain. All these elements are important for trust. And this is one of the key elements of what we are doing in Europe, as I explained, creating a trustworthy digital society, a trustworthy environment. Then data. Data is fundamental, so we need solutions like the context broker, like e-archiving, and all the others that you see there. And we are also having complementary solutions, and this is really the last layer there that I'm showing on the screen. What is important is that building blocks are not just software. They are fundamentally standards and technical specifications that everyone can look into, build a solution, or buy from the market a solution that complies with the same standards and technical specifications, and therefore become interoperable. So that's really the idea. Behind each one of these building blocks, there will be different software providers that offer different type of solutions. Some of them will be open source, some of them will be commercial, some of them will be a mix. We are actually building the ecosystem around the building blocks, but we as the Commission, what we want to promote is a common way to solve the problem and to solve it with common, let's say, standards and technical specifications so that we can create an ecosystem that is coherent and consistent. Let's move on, because otherwise we don't have time. So if you want to know more about each one of these building blocks, and there again, I showed the FIWARE one, which we started this partnership already quite some years ago. It's the context broker that is based, as you know, on a very well-known standard, ETSI standard, and that FIWARE has created a software, but others can do the same. And what we are promoting is the idea of how can we contextualize information, how can we solve it with this standard, and then if, let's say, the city wants to use the FIWARE software, so be it, but alternatives are emerging and we are also engaging with those. And you can go to CEF Digital and find out all the other building blocks and all the elements that we're currently helping the member states with, which I find very interesting as a concept, even if you are in Brazil or any part of the world, Japan. So think about, if we have common problems, we probably can get common solutions, and we can use these building blocks to build our future public services and put them online in a secure way. So what I'm going to show in a very conceptual way is how e-government has been, let's say, looked at in the past. So every member state, or even every sector, or even every city would work separately, and they would create the so-called stovepipes. So they would be actually creating barriers for the exchange of information. And that would mean that they would limit the potential that we just saw in the previous presentation of actually using data in smart ways and being able to actually get connected, which is actually the very basis of this digital transformation, is to make the life easier for citizens, to make it possible, respecting privacy rules, of course, for data to be reused and to make, better use of the data that is available out there. If we look at how we would use the building blocks, typically what we see is that the member states are creating, and the city is the same, digital platforms, and they can plug in these building blocks into their digital platform. And as they are all based in common technical specifications and common standards, they get all of them to be interoperable. They get to be connected. They're able to exchange information. And therefore, I would say this will accelerate, of course, all this process and will create an ecosystem that is fundamentally much, much, much smarter, and also through the regulatory process, respecting privacy and respecting trust.
Joao, sorry to interrupt you, but just to control a little bit our time, it's fascinating the topic, and we talk about funding and digitalization, but maybe if you can just wrap up in 2 minutes, and then we go through the Q&A session, and then we can talk a lot. Okay, so yeah,
cool. So
thank you very much.
No problem. So here you see that this in Europe is happening alongside, of course, a lot of sectorial regulation in health, justice, you name it. the different sectors, they're also creating sectorial regulation and creating sectorial ecosystems, which is extremely important. Investment in people and skills. You cannot forget, of course, this very important investment. And we have to also look at cloud and computer power. As we go more digital, we have to look at this as well. So what you will see here in this slide, and then I will close, is that we are moving really from the physical to the stovepipe model, where everything is separated, to the platform model, where I think we are today. We're all trying to build a sort of platform where we can plug different components and where we can use data in a smart way. When we are able to reuse this data, we call it once only, so that we avoid the citizens to provide their data, you know, many times. We can look at blockchain and this concept of verifiable credentials. It's coming. We know about it. We are working on that as well. And finally, artificial intelligence, AI, and the proactive delivery model of public services. So this is really a digital journey that we are all undergoing and that we have to look into the future. So have a look at these slides. We are doing this in cooperation with the private sector, of course, as I said. So we launched, for example, a digital challenge to involve them in the provision of these building blocks so that they can come up with innovative ideas on how these building blocks can be used in different sectors. So this is the digital challenge that you can also find online. So if you are interested, have a look at the success stories. They're all on this website called CEF Digital. And in case you are interested to know how interoperability will be, let's say, going in the next years, I leave you as well a link there, because we are running this consultation online. So get involved, have a look. And finally, if you think that someone would be interested to know about the building blocks or any of these concepts or what is happening in Europe, just share, of course, this presentation, send them the link, or connect with us on social media. And these are, let's say, my final messages. Renato.
Thank you very much, Joao. And again, sorry for cutting you, but I know that this, yeah, it's fascinating. And again, it's really now related to the problems that we're facing now. Governments and cities and everybody should go more digital. So I'm sure that there will be a lot of questions for you in our session. So to not take more, I'll go to the next, our next speaker today. We start now with our specialist session. And I would like to invite Jyot. Jyot's mission is to align NUMO stakeholders, the people living in cities, and the business and governments that run them. Prior to joining NUMO, Jyot also led the new mobility work at WRI, Ross Center of Sustainable Cities. And Jyot is joining us today directly from Washington, D.C. So it's probably the most important city in the world today, because everybody is watching you there. So thank you for being with us, and the stage is yours, Jyot. You have 10 minutes.
Thank you very much. Can you hear me? Yes? Okay.
Yes,
perfect.
yes, we can.
Thank you so much for having me, and what a great lineup of presentations since this morning. I'm very excited to speak with you, as long as all of you promise not to ask me any questions about Washington, D.C. and what's happening over here. So let's begin. I've been asked to speak a little bit about COVID-19 and what it means for mobility in cities and for the people living there. So quick introduction. At NUMO, our vision is a future where tech-based disruptions in mobility can be leveraged to create joyful cities where sustainable and just mobility is the new normal. And we are an alliance organization because we recognize that there's no one technology, no one actor, no one solution that can solve all these problems. And so we really do need to bring together cities, NGOs, private companies. And I think this is a theme that all the previous speakers have spoken about as well. So very critical. Okay, so let's turn to today. It's been a crazy year, and it seems like it's going to continue to be quite a remarkable year. We've seen some, some crises that have been like decades in the making, such as climate change, growing inequality, but also some that have emerged quite recently that we maybe didn't have the foresight to see, and that are really testing our ability to be resilient. So the COVID pandemic and associated economic upheaval and another recession potentially. So let's talk about the impact on mobility. I think all of you must be quite familiar with these with these numbers. These are some numbers from the US, which is showing the drastic drop in the number of trips that's being made in US cities. You can see on the left is sort of a national number, and we're seeing that that trips are at 77% of pre-pandemic levels. But on the right, there's a breakdown for New York City, and really looking at the steep drop that there's been as such in walking, in transit especially, which is sort of the lowest, and in driving as well, though those numbers seem to be starting to go up again right now. We've seen a huge decrease in transit, not only because of a growing insecurity with what safety concerns might be on transit, but also because in reaction, transit agencies are having to either reduce the number of, reduce their schedules or reduce their routes. So it's really been sort of a chicken and egg sort of situation. But finally, I think it would be worth noting that we're seeing globally a really big boom in bicycling, both from a manufacturing and sales perspective, but also in terms of the number of trips that are being made. And in particular, you can look at two cities in the US, Houston and LA, which are just these huge sprawling cities where the mode share for cycling was very, very low. And we're seeing that that is growing it is higher by 138% at this point. So in all of these, with all of these changes taking place, I think the question is, how are we reacting to them? So I want to tell you a little bit about COVID Mobility Works. It is an independent platform that we launched earlier this year to collect and synthesize mobility initiatives that are keeping the world moving during this time. So what have we seen from this collection of initiatives that we've been doing over the last few months? So you'll see that, unsurprisingly, a big focus of governments and of stakeholders has been on public health, on moving people, and on moving goods. On the right-hand side, what you'll see is the strategies that are being used to address some of those goals. So everything from how we are using information and data to thinking about new processes, changes in prices, communication to the public, changing services, in some places even changing regulation. But one of the biggest areas that we've seen interventions taking place in is in repurposing of public space. And so, we're thinking of repurposing of public space from really two perspectives. One, in terms of giving people more space to move, either that is recreational or that might be from a perspective of the shorter trips people need to make. But the second area is also that it's an important economic tool to allow restaurants and retail to start to recover some of the losses that they've seen. And so, according to a survey of small businesses conducted in the US in March, nearly half of the businesses responded that they don't expect to stay in business to the end of the year if the crisis continues for the next 4 months. And so we're really already seeing that. So the way commercial open street initiatives are helping is to allow retail and businesses to achieve the capacity they need for profitability by being able to spill out into the street, in a sense. But I think the big questions being faced by us today are, Will open streets allow local restaurants and retail businesses to be economically viable? How is that going to pan out beyond the summer as it starts to get a little colder? And will these changes, I think, in the longer term, generate a new form of restaurant service around the world? Moving on quickly, because I know that we must for time. So in recognition, I think, of the community that FIWARE has put together, I did want to highlight some of the initiatives that are being that are using information and data platforms to engage during this pandemic. And I wanted to tell you actually about one particular case, and it's in the city of Bogota. Steer has developed a platform through which health sector workers can record their travel needs and the way that they're traveling. And so what this resulted in the last couple of months is the collection of massive information that has then been used by Transmilenio for route planning so that they can start to think about their route planning processes and think about how to prioritize the mobility needs, for example, of medical personnel. So I think we're really seeing how data can be used sort of in different ways. So I'm going to wrap up quickly now. I will leave you with 3 questions to consider. The first is, how do we move beyond our old normal? So we know that as cities are getting out of lockdown, residents are feeling that public transport puts them at a higher risk of being infected, and they're starting to perceive private vehicles to be safer. So even though we're seeing this huge cycling boom, how does this sort of play out post lockdown as things as infection rates continue to drop? And so you'll see in this chart that we have the foresight of what's happening in Chinese cities where they are, in a post-lockdown mode or have been so far, and that the levels of congestion have surpassed 2019 levels. So that, I think, is a very big question for our cities today, and also for us as individuals, as businesses. The second is that we're seeing that remote work and deliveries have increased tremendously, and it's going to have far-reaching impacts. So there's a question about a reduced need for office space. We're seeing that 42% of the US labor force is working from home as of June. So what is that going to do to the demand of office space? 7,500 stores and 100,000 restaurants and bars have closed in the US. What is that going to do in terms of the need for zoned land? There's been a 100% increase in meal deliveries in the US. So how is that going to change how we think about parking and drop-off zones and loading zones? There's a continued growth in warehousing needs. We've seen, huge expansions by companies like Amazon. And so how do we think about space being taken away maybe from offices, but maybe we need warehousing? And so I think the larger questions that this is leading to is, what will peak hours look like? What will the mix of people in a neighborhood be during the day? Are we going to shift from urban areas to suburban areas? And are we going to shift from sort of an urban core to multiple neighborhood centers? And someone else also mentioned the concept of the 15-minute city that's being pioneered right now by Paris. And so does what is happening over the last few months, does it sort of bolster the idea for the 15-minute city, or does the closure of retail and restaurants induce a shift to suburbia? I think these are all, really large questions that we're dealing with today. And I'd say the last is, let's be thoughtful about who bears the brunt of all of this. On the left, you can see who is still going to work on public transit. And you're seeing that these are a lot of the essential workers or workers that have lower incomes. And so as we think about all of these shifts, how do we make sure that people who have always been lesser served by our systems don't continue to have that experience going forward? I will stop there. I'm looking forward to our Q&A session a bit later. Here's a little detail about NUMO, should you like to visit our website. And now I turn it back to Renato to take the session forward.
Thank you, Jyot, very much. And I'm wondering how many questions you're going to have, because I mean, you take all these considerations, and then now you also add to these the what we're calling second wave. So yeah, I mean, these old normal that you mentioned, maybe it's even farther than we were thing. I think that probably the new normal will be something in between what we have now and what we had in the past. But we are going to have time to discuss about this during the Q&A. Thank you very much. So to end this first part of our event, I would like to invite our last speaker of the first part, that is the CTO of FIWARE Foundation. Juanjo Hierro has joined the FIWARE Foundation in 2017, but he has been involved with FIWARE since 2011, when he was already coordinating activities related to the FIWARE platform. Juanjo, the stage is yours. Thank you very much, and thank you for hosting us here today. We cannot hear you, Juanjo.
Okay, now I hope you can hear me, yes?
Yeah, now we are here. Thank you.
All right. And I also hope you are seeing the slides, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, yes, it's right. Yeah.
Okay, so thank you. Good afternoon, good morning, depending on where you are in the world. And thank you for all the participants and attendees to this session. Well, today I'm going to elaborate a bit on FIWARE vision and roadmap for the cities. As you, many of you know, FIWARE is certainly already supporting cities all around the world in their digital transformation journey, evolving through different levels of maturity with the goal of improving the daily life of not just citizens, but also business operating in cities, helping both to be more productive. This journey starts looking for a more efficient governance of the city, and doing so by means of breaking the information silos that in many cities still exist. Also, creating the collaboration framework among cities towards the creation of a sustainable market of interoperable and very important replicable smart city solutions. FIWARE is bringing here a genuine approach based on providing the key standards for creating a digital twin representation of the city. There was one of the speakers before that was talking about digital twins. So FIWARE is actually trying to bring the kind of a standard technologies that help to materialize the vision of a digital twin representation for the use for the city. What we also referred as the context of the city, implemented as a collection of digital twin entities representing the streets, the buses, the shops, even citizens, which all together bring a description about what's going on in real time within the city. Leveraging on this digital twin representation and supporting a system-to-systems approach, the different systems within the city can both publish and consume digital twin data, and that is the basis for enabling interoperability between those systems, but also the way to support the creation of a city-level governance system that is capable to exploit all the data coming from the different systems that were before information silos and now can be brought together to be able to extract those insights which were hidden, and this way provide a basis for creating more smart management of the services and also the support to smart decisions. What do we mean by digital twin? Well, this is a digital representation of an asset, of an object in the real world, having attributes which are properties or relationships with other elements. And when we talk about a city, these entities are, again, the shops and the citizens, the buses, even elements like a claim a given citizen has created within the city. And there are properties describing those entities. Some of them can be quite static, like the license plate of a bus, other much more dynamic, like the speed of the location of those buses, and some of them still dynamic, but not that much, like, for instance, the driver, which might be who might be changing twice a day for a given bus. All this information together is what will allow us to have this digital twin representation. And FIWARE brings two essential elements that are the basis for interoperability of solutions, the basis for replicability of solution, enabling that a given solution can be developed once and then be replicable across multiple cities. First element is a standard API for getting access to digital twin data. Second element, defining what are the vocabularies, what are the terminology, the concepts, the data models behind all these entities. What are the properties that describe all the kind of types of entities that I will use for modeling the city. Regarding the API, we bring a standard. We created an API that was curated over time with the feedback of programmers trying to develop their applications. That was what led to the creation of version 2 of the API, NGSI version 2. And then at certain point, we brought this API for standardization within an organization called ETSI. And now the API that FIWARE is implementing is actually endorsed by this standard body, and which is quite fundamental when designing the public tenders, for instance, of smart cities around the world. Second aspect, as I mentioned, was the data models, because without data models, the API is just not enough for achieving the kind of interoperability and replicability of solutions. We need to define what is the language, what are the way we will describe the different type of entities in our system, and what will allow this replicability of solution. That is fundamental, by the way, for creating a sustainable market that will attract companies to invest in creating solutions, knowing they will be able to exploit this economy of scales and be able to sell their products to more than one city with really low effort in adaptation. Regarding smart data models, the Smart Data Models initiative we launched is something we encourage you to take a look. You can visit this on GitHub. It's an initiative we have created with a number of other organizations. TM Forum was the one with which we launched that initiative in the first place, but new organizations which will be soon announced will join this initiative, implementing an open governance process for defining data models that programmers can use for creating and designing their systems, and all of that producing public and royalty-free data models, which will be substantial. This digital twin approach is what is enabling integration at multiple levels within a given solution, within a given city, enabling this, breaking these silos and support this interoperability between systems within the city, but also when exposing data and creating the kind of open innovation that cities can trigger by means of exporting part of the data they manage to third parties, so that they can create service, but also they can combine with their own data to fuel the kind of innovative services that will impact the daily life of citizens and companies. All this together is what has led to the definition of a reference architecture that more and more cities worldwide are adopting, leveraging on the technologies that FIWARE brings and the standards that are behind this open source implementation, because we are ultimately trying to all we do translate into concrete open standards and following and driven by an implementation approach. And as you see, the context broker technology, which is, as Joao explained in his speech, now a connecting Europe facility building block, but is getting adopted also in other places beyond Europe, is the core essential element in the architecture, and where systems are plugged to be able to both enrich by publishing data that digital twin representation all systems share, and also systems can connect to that motherboard kind of saying, if I use an analogy with hardware architectures, to be able to also consume data they need and data with which they will improve the particular process they support. And altogether also supporting the publication of part of this information in real time through portals, and creating a transition from existing open data portals to real-time open data portals. And furthermore, what will be and what we envision in the future, data marketplaces where cities and third parties from the private sector will not only be able to publish data as open data, but also be able to monetize part of the data they offer. This is particularly important for the private sector. A final slide to comment on, well, what are also the vision about roadmap activities we are carrying out within the FIWARE community. We have, once we have stabilized all these technologies I have already mentioned, the APIs and the data models and so on, what we are, this is not still the last stop of the journey. We are evolving and integrating within the FIWARE architecture and to be used together with FIWARE technologies to enrich the FIWARE portfolio of technologies. We are working in different areas, and here I provide a kind of a summary. Of course, we will keep working on digital twin standardization aspects. NGS-ILD is the basis for providing this access to data about digital twins, but there are other aspects about the support of the digital twin concept that we are developing, and we will try to standardize, like how to model behavior, like how to model actuations, and also digital 3D virtual representation of objects. Of course, the definition of data models is a continuous work, and here a message is really join us to further develop and continue growing the set of data models that exist. Aspects where we are working also the related with data spaces, data marketplaces, to bring support to the concept of data economy. We have a vision where cities can play a fundamental role in creation of the data economy, and FIWARE technologies are able to materialize this, but we will keep evolving. Data sovereignty as another concept that is part of the roadmap of FIWARE, tackling quite relevant aspects like data provenance, like how to support the notion of data usage control beyond access control, pure access control, integration with blockchain technologies. And here the vision is by means of integrating everything that happens in the city within the context broker. These updates on context data, digital twin data, are the kind of transactions, part of which we may decide to store on the distributed ledger to then later on support auditing of processes and support the transparency of process. So we, and the next FIWARE release, we are bringing a new set of components that make it really easy to integrate FIWARE powered by FIWARE systems with distributed ledgers. Also supporting the notion of pluggable plug and play artificial intelligence, machine learning services, how you would be able to extend, in other words, the functionality of your smart city by means of integrating services that AI services that third parties might be offering on the web. And last but not least, also the integration with robotics. Robotics will play a role in future cities, dealing with activities in the streets, in dealing with maintenance, surveillance activities, and so on. And we are in the way of creating those technologies that will enable those robots to play with and the context and be offer a way more smart behavior for the kind of activities they need to carry out. As a conclusion, FIWARE bringing response to existing challenges regarding interoperability and replicability of smart solutions in multiple sectors, but cities being one of the first sectors where this is really becoming successful. An approach that is working cross domains, and this is important because we'll pave the way by which we will be able to incorporate the cities in enriching existing value chains, and an approach that is future-proof with a comprehensive roadmap in place. Don't forget, FIWARE is open for all and forever. Thank you. Now back into you, Renato. I think we cannot
Okay,
hear.
can you hear me? Hello?
Oh, yes.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, yeah, okay. Okay, thank you again, Juanjo. And we are going now for our Q&A session. I saw that there are a lot of questions in our chat now, and I tried to summarize at least the main ideas for one question for each of our speakers. And just remembering that, well, the main proposal of these events, the FIWARE events, is first of all, it's open data. So everything that we are sharing here, it's open. It's exactly to be shared. So you feel free to ask more information to the speakers and to contact the speakers directly, because it's also about networking. FIWARE Community is about networking. So this is also, I mean, we don't need to keep just the Q&A for the questions. You can go on asking, talking directly to the speakers and among each other. That's the main idea. So Joao, are you still there with us? I think the first question I will address you, as Bettina is not with us anymore. Can you hear me, Joao?
I'm here. I'm here.
Ah, fantastic. So yeah, now I can see you because I was not seeing your video. Okay, Joao. So yeah, I think that this is a worry of everyone that works with European projects. We know that the CEF program covers the period from 2014 to 2020, as the Horizon 2020 is ending now in 2020, and it's ending in this situation that we know that the Commission has some problems to put together to work, and I mean the world is changing. So how do you see for the next policies? How do you see the importance of the building blocks, and do you still think that the building blocks will play an important role on these new policies that are to come?
Yes, I of course had to try to cover as much ground as I could in the 15 minutes. But when I presented the Digital Europe program, I don't know if you, Renato, remember, there were different funding mechanisms that the Commission is putting in place. One of them is the Digital Europe program, and the building blocks will transition, most of them, into this new program of the Commission. So we will definitely continue to promote the building blocks, and we will more and more try to have an approach of package them so that the member states and the cities can use as many of them as possible. So to make it as easy as possible, and one of our ideas is to make it as cloud friendly as possible, so that it becomes kind of a package that you can really to try them out as easily as possible. This idea of the test before you invest, we are really thinking long and hard on how to make this a reality in the continuation of the building blocks.
And this is the personal question I always do when I talk to someone from Brussels that are totally involved with the new programs. Do you foresee any kind of delays in these new policies that are to come? Or, I mean, we are going to keep the path, and 2021 we started already the new policies in Europe. Just wrapping up from your side.
Of course, I cannot answer that question, but what I can say is that, as you know, the negotiations on the multi-annual financial framework, what is called the MFF, so let's say financing of all these programs, and it has to happen for 7 years, as you might know. The member states are reaching agreements on all the details, and alongside the MFF, you will also have this recovery and resilience facility, which is a symbol of programs. So the member states are currently putting together, as you might know, their own plans for applying the funds that are exceptional funds to help them recover from the pandemic, so to help their economy recover. So that will also open new opportunities for the reuse of the building blocks, as the Commission is really encouraging the member states to include in their own plans a digital and green transition as a fundamental piece of the recovery plan. So this is exactly what we're helping the member states with, is to understand, hey guys, you know, the building blocks are here. They have been here since now 2014. They are ready to go. Just have a look at them and try to apply them in as many cities, sectors, problems as you can. So this is my job. Now, of course, if there will be delays or not, that's really beyond me.
Can you hear me? Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much, Joao. And sorry again for this time rushing, but yeah, we need to take most advantage that we can from our schedule here. Thank you very much. Jyot, now it's for you. The next question. We have been discussing, I think the main issue when we talk about smart cities, since when we started in the 90s, basically to go deeper in the concept, was this urbanization process that the world is facing. We are expecting these big numbers by 2050 to reach almost 70% of urbanization in the world, and mainly here in Europe we discuss a lot also the concept of smart villages, and try to avoid these and try to bring technologies inside the small cities as well. So in your opinion, and talking about smart cities and the three main sustainable pillars, that is economic, societal, and environmental, what will be the main and major shift for this new paradigm we are going to have for this post-COVID world? I think Jyot had to leave us, or she is still not here with us. I'm just checking. Or everybody's silent. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so I thought it was me that lost. Okay, so well, I think Jyot is having some problems there in the connection. But so let me go to Juanjo, and then if Jyot is back, we ask her. Anyway, all questions be already addressed to our speakers. So
yeah, and Renato. Sorry,
yeah.
Just to clarify, if Jyot is not back, we will send her the questions by email and get back to the person with an answer as soon as we have it, so it's not lost.
Okay, so Juanjo, well, I've been following your work as CTO at the FIWARE and all the work of FIWARE, and I think we have people from different parts of the world here with us. I saw a lot of Brazilians today also, and I think the main question for those that doesn't know so well and understand the whole of FIWARE in this open innovation, open data, and creating community to develop new solutions. But question is, talking about open source technology or even adopting the FIWARE as at service level, what do you think are the whole of the FIWARE community and members on it? Because I know that a lot of people here, maybe they are still not members, they want to come inside. So how they can understand their whole on FIWARE promotion of data for cities and technologies for city?
Mm-hmm. Well, FIWARE, I talked today about a bit the vision of what FIWARE brings as a technology, but FIWARE is not just about technologies. It's in the first place about creating opportunities and democratizing those opportunities. That's also one of the reasons why we adopted an open source approach, because open source in the DNA of open source initiative is this idea of democratizing opportunities, because what we bring is a technology that everyone can download and use, and with all the materials also for even self-training, and this way be able to create solutions and also create platforms they can provide to their local customers, right? And this way is the way how FIWARE is actually expanding, by creating communities within each of the regions, by means of having, in many cases, SMEs. So it's not about large organizations at all, but really SMEs being able to create their offerings in a very competitive manner and bring that to their cities, or partner with other companies to bring those solutions to cities that may work, but because are based on the same standards, can be arrive with all the the value of not getting locked in a particular vendor or provider. That's a bit the essential. And FIWARE as an ecosystem is not only bringing programs that are connected to how to contribute to the technology, but also how to play an active role in fostering adoption of FIWARE. And then here I think it's worth mentioning programs like the FIWARE iHubs network that we have. I encourage people to join the next FIWARE iHub webinar that I believe is going to run next Tuesday. But in any case, all the information you can find on the website. And FIWARE iHubs are those centers that work in local in the regions to be the active ambassadors of FIWARE in those regions, providing training, providing support, coaching locally, and helping to develop the community locally. In addition, also we have a number of programs that are starting now in terms of connecting to accelerators, connecting also to university and academia. So a quite extensive set of programs going beyond the pure technology, where I think everyone can participate, and we would be more than welcome to welcome, if you allow me the redundancy, to join the ecosystem, join the community, and help us in this mission.
Thank you, Juanjo. It's a pity that we cannot meet in person this year in the big events of FIWARE. It's really good for networking and to understand how important it is. But now digitally we are more. I mean, FIWARE is more present than ever, right? I mean, it's very easy now to connect and to get more information. Thank you very much. If you have more questions for our speakers, you can drop these questions in our chat. And to not lose so much time, let's go already to the second part of our event, and I will start inviting to the stage Dr. Yasunori. Yasunori joined NEC in 1987 when he concluded his PhD. Can you hear me? Okay, you are here. Yeah. Thank you, Yasunori. Just finishing. Well, your current title of NEC Fellow means that you actively participates in innovation policy proposals, global ecosystem building, and also developing, proposing, and implementing digital transformation. So please, welcome to the stage, and yeah, let us know what you're doing there in Japan.
Thank you very much, Renato, for the introduction, and good evening from Tokyo. It's my great pleasure to join today's Smart Cities Day and elaborate some how smart cities in Japan, particularly those using FIWARE, are moving forward through a collaborative approach. So next slide, please, and one more, please. Next, I believe that what I'm saying by collaboration had threefold significance. The first one is the global collaboration. There are already lots of advanced technologies and services in Japan, but in the urban life space, people are used to long existing public services that are still pretty much analog, although Japan is foreseeing many societal challenges in coming decades. And thus the global collaboration is truly important to accelerate digitalization and furthermore to establish a consensus on the importance of interoperability as well as how to implement it. The second one is a collaboration between cities in order to make smart cities services citizen-centric or citizen-friendly and also scalable. Also, this aspect is of course useful in sharing good practices and thereby reducing procurement risk for cities. The third point I want to make is the regional collaboration, meaning the formation of stakeholder ecosystem working together, such as local public-private partnership, and this is important as a sustainability mechanism for implementing innovations. You know, we don't want something that just stops after doing. So NEC has been working on two things. One is the high-level policy proposals to the central government of Japan advocating FIWARE. FIWARE as technology enabler for data-driven collaboration, and also the FIWARE ecosystem as a leading practice to drive digital innovation in urban communities. At the same time, we have been working with several cities under a multi-stakeholder approach with the hope that these cities will come up with meaningful outcomes after adopting. The city of Takamatsu was the first city in Japan to decide adoption of FIWARE and built their common IoT platform in order to enable cross-domain data sharing. At the same time, the city government also invited regional stakeholders and established Smart City Takamatsu Promotion Council. This council consists of several working groups, and each of them is defined according to prioritized regional challenges such as disaster management, which is a very important topic in Japan, and tourism stimulation, welfare of elderly people, and traffic safety. And as you can see at the top column in the slide, showing each working group subject, such a focused approach has proven to be quite successful in making quick wins, demonstrating visible or even quantitative outcomes. And it is really amazing to see that the member organization of Smart City Takamatsu Council, which was actually 6 when they started in 2018, has now increased to more than 80 as of September this year. And as a next step further, Takamatsu City, together with 2 neighboring municipalities called Kanonji and Ayakawa, started to work on IoT-leveraged wide area disaster management this year. These municipalities are now operating a shared disaster management dashboard for real-time situation awareness and timely decision-making. The photograph in the middle shows the 3 mayors when they signed the agreement on the shared use of the IoT platform after developing some cost-sharing model. Such a collaboration, of course, enables more comprehensive and precise understanding of disaster-related situations. But let me also point out that many residents in Kannonji and Ayakawa, they commute to work in Takamatsu during daytime, and the disaster management services provided beyond city boundaries are something that indeed benefits such commuters. Now let's go to Kakogawa City, which also introduced FIWARE in 2018. This city has its basic strategy of making it the city of choice for child-raising families. Even before that, as shown in the bottom right of the slide, the city installed what they call a watch-over camera in the city area in order to prevent crime incidents. Actually, the operation turned out to be quite successful in drastically suppressing crimes while receiving almost unanimous support from Kakogawa citizens. And in 2018, the city started to expand the watch-over services to a broader range of well-being issues, including care for elderly and children, as well as to the convenient living environment. One unique feature in Kakogawa is the city is utilizing FIWARE-based common platform also to publish a wide variety of open data that are available in the form of NGSI API. In the case of recent COVID-19 situation, when many of the local restaurants had to close and instead wanted to newly start food takeout services, the city immediately collaborated with the local businesses and added takeout-ready information and shop messages onto their Kakogawa open data portal. The city official indeed comments that a flexible and scalable feature of FIWARE is indeed becoming a great value add to the city's smart city journey. Toyama City implemented the city's smart city platform using FIWARE and also the LPWS sensor network that covers 98% of the populated area of the city. This was out of the purpose of harnessing real-time information for creation of regional new business. The first project utilizing this platform was a safety care pilot for elementary school students, for which every kid carries GPS sensor upon parents' agreement, of course. From the diagnosis of trajectory patterns of students, some useful insight was obtained. Whereas the students are taught by teachers to walk along predefined streets or specific streets to commute to school for safety reasons. But they found that some students are actually taking shortcut paths by entering into parking yard of local supermarket. So the teachers were able to immediately warn students not to do so. By integrating such IoT information and some others, such as road reconstruction schedules, school, parents, and local authorities are working together for enhanced safety care for children. This project started with 2 elementary schools, but after seeing such successful outcome, the city's plan is to apply the service to all other elementary schools in the region. In the meantime, the city government opened the platform for the use by local business players, and the city is happy to see that many companies raised their hands with new service proposals and started using the platform for experimentation of their innovation ideas. They are now in their 2nd year, and the number of such pilots are even further increasing into a large number. Next slide, please. Now, Japan is in the process of sharing reflections of successful use cases in the form of Japan's Smart City Reference Architecture. This was formulated and published as the deliverable of a government-funded project called SIP, and here NEC played the leading coordinator role of the consortium. In brief, this architecture translates Japan's vision of Society 5.0 into smart cities. There are several viewpoints that are then classified into 2 important building blocks. These are smart city management framework for sustainable partnership and the business models, and city operating system as enabler of interoperability, data exchange, and scalability. In the white paper and supporting guidebook, the strategic approach of the 3 Cs I have outlined today are described in the city management section as a leading practices for Japan. There have been years of effort by smart city initiatives also in our country, but these used to exist mostly fragmented, and such a situation has made it difficult for good practice to be shared, services to scale in a cross-domain manner, and make the community ready for changing issues over time. But with the smart city reference architecture that is to be shared nationwide, we expect now the data to become connected and start flowing, services to federate, thereby making regional communities future-proof. Of course, the COS part of this white paper emphasizes the global harmonization for interoperability and refers to major overseas smart city architectures, including FIWARE and also synchronicity. So this slide summarizes smart cities with FIWARE in Japan. FIWARE adoption is steadily in progress. Now there are 7 cities in use and another 12 under planning preparation as of October 2020. So far, cities using FIWARE tend to be the regional core cities with the populations ranging from something like 200 to 400,000. And such cities were actually rather straightforward in making up their decision of adopting FIWARE. And the municipalities also showed a clear leadership in their goal setting, and then are focused on region-specific problem solving under multi-stakeholder collaboration. And we are happy to see that solid outcomes are emerging and their use cases expanding year by year in these cities by leveraging flexible, agile, and open nature of FIWARE-based data platform. Such early phase success have been referenced as frontrunner practices in Japan, smart cities architecture, reference architecture, and is further driving the open API approach into the mainstream in Japan's smart city policy for interoperability. City-city collaborations via FIWARE Context Broker also started, as I have mentioned, in the wide area disaster management for Takamatsu, Kanonji, and Ayakawa. There is another demonstration of Mars app sharing, for which related mobility companies in Toyama and Takamatsu participated. So this is my concluding slide, showing what smart city means to a country like Japan, which is a mature and also aging society. Technology implementation is not the ultimate goal, but the more fundamental goal is the revitalization and sustainability mechanism. And for this reason, there has to be a management innovation toward a self-sustaining community. The lower charts show the clues to such self-sustaining city management. Along the course of digital transformation, new services should become federated and with holistic business model that makes sense. And how this can be done critically owes to the citizen-centric problem-solving approach. In order to do so, each community must focus on its region-specific challenges and opportunities, and that is enabled through the collaboration of regional stakeholders from government, business, and academia. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Yasunori. Thank you very much. We are going now from Japan to India, and the second part of the event, we are going to do a global trip. So we are now going to invite to the stage Dr. Inder Gopal. He heads the Indian Urban Data Exchange Program for the Government of India's Smart City Mission, addressing how data can improve the lives of citizens living in urban areas. Dr. Gopal, the stage is yours.
Yeah,
Here we are.
Hi, how are you?
Okay, welcome.
So I'm gonna talk to you today about a project that we're very excited about in India, called the Indian Urban Data Exchange. And it's a project that's about 2 years old, and it is now deployed in 3 cities, and will shortly be deployed in 10 by the end of next March, and then 20 cities the year after that. So we have a very kind of aggressive plan and a very exciting set of new features and capabilities that we're going to be rolling out. So to tell you a little bit about what this project is all about, this slide all of you are familiar with, so I'm not going to spend much time on. It says there's a lot of data that's being generated, and what we'd like to be able to do is generate value from that data, right? And the data is coming from public sources, and it's also coming from private sources. So that's kind of an important aspect here. It's not all just public-owned data, it's also a lot of private data from companies like Google and Ola and Uber and various others. Great. So the project is sponsored by the Smart City Mission in India, which is sponsoring about 100 different smart cities across the country. And this was kind of the motivating example that the the head of the smart city mission discussed with me when we started the project, right? So what you can see here is, you know, an emergency response requirement, but you see police with all kinds of different information. You know, they have cameras, they have public address systems. The fire department has different kinds of information, smoke detectors, panic buttons. Hospitals understand, you know, what their inventory is. And if there was some catastrophic event, right, like a, you know, heaven forbid, a terrorist attack or, you know, some sort of natural disaster, what you want to do is have a coordinated response. And the problem is that at this point, all the data that's from these 3 departments, even though that they may be part of the same municipal government, is entirely in silos. And the police don't even know what data the fire department has, let alone be able to access it. So that's where IUDX came into play. So if I show you the next slide. Next slide. So we came together. So I'm based out of the Indian Institute of Science in Bangalore. And we've been thinking a lot about data exchange, data sharing, and you know, secure data sharing. And when we had this discussion with the Smart City Mission, we said, hey, look, you know, let's build a data exchange. And of course, we had some discussions with you know, various people around the world, including with the FIWARE team, understanding what the best of breed was. And we built something called IUDX, the Indian Urban Data Exchange. So what that does is it really provides controlled data sharing of non-personal data. And it provides 3 different services. It provides a ability to find the data. So there's something called the catalog server. It provides a very comprehensive mechanism to control who gets access to the data. So that's called the consent server, and you can apply kind of different policies and payment mechanisms and so forth. And then it provides a resource server, which essentially moves the data from the source, from the provider to the consumer, and that enables things like translation of data models into a common data format. So an application that is running on top of the platform using a set of standardized APIs will be able to access that data in a standard way without having to understand the nature of the underlying provider of the data. So if it's an IoT system generating, I mean, a sensor, say an air quality monitor generating data, you may have 3 different brands of air quality monitor, each one representing the data in different ways. The resource server will provide the homogeneity, so the application doesn't have to understand, you know, 3 different data formats and underlying data models. So that's kind of the basic idea. And what we have done is, you know, executed that, you know, built that system. The key things here are that it is within a university. So you know, it's a software development organization that we have created, but it's within a top university in the Indian Institute of Science. So we get a lot of advantage in terms of academic interaction with various smart people in different departments. It's completely open source, and if you're interested, you can go to iudx.org.in and download the code. Version 2 is now available, and it is a collaborative project. So we're working very much between government, industry, academia, and we are, of course, collaborating on a global basis with entities such as the FIWARE Foundation, which has very similar goals and similar ambitions in terms of what we're trying to do, and also, of course, is also open source. So our idea is to, you know, conform to the same set of APIs and GSILD, to eventually share, you know, data models and possibly share code as we move forward. We believe very strongly that it's not just technology. So making a successful data exchange requires things like governance and policy and economic models, understanding things like how a data marketplace works. So we have a framework that we've created there. And as I mentioned, we have deployed in 3 production cities so far. And these are all large-scale deployments. I mean, a city in India is a big entity, right? We're talking about many millions of people, even for a small city in India. And so we have deployed in 3. We're going to be doing 10 more till next March, and then 20 more the year after. Next slide, please. Let's skip that and move to the next one. Okay, so we have a whole variety of different use cases. I think one of the previous speakers talked about, well, the platform itself isn't enough, and just sharing the data isn't enough. You've really got to figure out what the use cases are. So what we've done is in each of the cities that we've deployed, we've actually got real working use cases, right? So spent a lot of time working not just with the city, but also with partners who can create use cases that will run on top of our platform using data that is available through the platform and deliver something of value to citizens. So this is, for example, an application for safety, providing a safety index in the city of Pune, where we have deployed. And it's built on top of our platform by a small company called SafetyPin, a startup. So they're using data, they're connected to the IUDX platform. And what you can see here is a safety index of the different streets in a particular neighborhood in the city. And the green, as you can see, indicates that the street is safe. And if you were walking through the city, you would pick the green route, and you can see there's a green path that you would rather take rather than taking the red path. The unique thing here is that the computation of each safety index is a combination of multiple different data sources. So we look at lighting from street lights, we look at openness using cameras, we look at visibility, we look at things like crowds, the density of crowds. We don't just look at the density of crowds, we actually look at things like the gender diversity within a crowd. The idea being that if a crowd is made of families, it's going to be safe. Whereas if a crowd is just young men, then maybe it's not very safe for, say, a young woman to be walking around late at night. So that's kind of the idea. And so we use a variety of different data sources to create this notion of a safety perception index, and then put it all together to allow you to compute what might be the best path to a city if you're walking. Next slide. Excuse me. We have a whole variety of other use cases that we're constructing. Things like in the city of Surat, we're doing the ability to understand occupancy. Not just bus arrival time. Everyone understands how to do bus arrival times by looking at the locations of buses. But what if you also wanted to know in real time how many people there were on the bus and whether there was a seat available, and whether you would have the opportunity to do social distancing given COVID times. So these are things that we're able to get using data that's available from ticket collection, and combine it with bus arrival times and give you a pretty accurate idea of, hey, look, you're likely to get a seat on this bus. You might as well go and go down to the bus stop, or perhaps you want to wait till the next bus. I'm not going to go through each one. They're actually pretty interesting use cases. Just as an example, solid waste, right? We're looking at how to do optimization of pickups of solid waste. And there is a paucity of instrumentation, right? So the garbage bins and so forth are not instrumented. So the question is, how do you even know how much waste there is to collect, or how much waste has been collected? And so we've got some unique ideas to use things like smartphones and the accelerometers that are built within the smartphone, mounted on the dashboard within a garbage truck, to be able to actually do a pretty good estimation of how much load that garbage truck is carrying, and use that as a way of determining whether the garbage truck has room for additional pickups or not. and that turns out to be a pretty good proxy. So I'm out of time. I think I'm done with my 10 minutes. So I have one more slide, I think. Broad collaboration across ecosystems. We are working with many different agencies. We're sponsored by the Ministry of Urban Affairs, but we have close connections with the Ministry of Electronics and Planning Commission within India. We're working with many industry partners, both Indian as well as multinationals and startups, and we have something called the IUDX Consortium, which is a formal way of involving our industry partners. And then, of course, very importantly, we have collaboration in the open source and standardization community, FIWARE being a key partner of ours, working with FIWARE to influence ETSI through NGSILD, potentially TM Forum. We also looking at potential collaborations with the Linux Foundation because they are very interested in creating a reference platform for smart cities. And then, of course, academia, strong. There's so many interesting problems, research issues that come out of what we're doing, both in terms of using the data, interesting new approaches in security and management, and, a whole variety of different things which we can talk about if you had a little bit more time. So
thank you.
Yeah, thanks so much. Please, if you have any questions, feel free to contact me, and we're always looking for people who are interested in collaboration or helping in any way.
Thank you very much, Dr. Gopal. It's really complicated to frame us that we are passionate about the topic in 10 minutes to show everything that has been done and we are doing. It's complicated, but thank you very much. And now, well, from India, we are going to fly to Spain, back to Europe, and then our last destination will be South America. But well, from Spain, we have a special guest today, Dr. Antonio Skarmeta. He has worked on different international and national research projects centered around networking, security, and IoT. He's currently the scientific manager of the Smart City project Murcia. And welcome to the stage, Dr. Skarmeta. And yeah, the microphone is yours.
Many thanks. I think you can hear me now. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Thanks.
And so just to remember, you have 10 minutes. Thank you.
Yep. I will try to be on time. So basically, as already was said, I mean, it's a pleasure to be here. I mean, I'm presenting here the project Murcia, that is the smart city project of the city of Murcia, where I'm collaborating as part of a research team. In this case, coordinated by the University of Murcia and also by the Murcia City Hall. So just to give you, a small comment about why we start with this project, because I mean, Murcia is the 7th city in Spain that have several projects, or they already have several projects in areas like energy efficiency, like mobility, etc. And it was thought that it could be a quite interesting incubator to do a pilot that tried to be cover different areas, different aspects of the city. In that sense, not to focalize on one sector. But in different aspects, as you will see later. It's an integrated approach that we have tried to bring to this solution in that sense. So this is being funded by the national government with 8 million euros for mostly 3 years. Now we are in the year and a half mostly of the deployment of the project. And basically, just to know where is Murcia, you can see here this is Spain, the south of Spain. So in case in the future and the COVID allows you to come here to see what we are doing. So basically, the project was focused on the idea to how to change basically the vision and the interaction of the citizens with the municipality, with the city hall. And that's why we call it Mi Murcia. Mi Murcia means my Murcia, and refer to the idea that we want to be able to create different ways to access to the services of the municipality, depending on the interest of the user. So in that way, the idea is that you can have different views of the city depending on your own vision or their own needs, on their own requirements and so on. And the project was focused around 4 main areas: how to increase or better shape, I would say, the communication with the citizen, how to solve the problem of the citizen, how to make it easy to understand and to identify how to solve the problem, how to make open. I think one is linked also to some of the comments previously about how to be able to also provide data in open data so that they can be used by third party in order to generate new kind of service, and obviously how to provide a more sustainable city through improve on the energy efficiency, the water usage in the irrigation of gardens, and several other in the mobility aspect, etc. So at the end, I mean, this is what basically the general aspect that I try to cover with the city. So as you can see here, the idea is to have an holistic view of how to manage the city, so that we are not focused only on transport or only on street lighting but basically how to manage globally the different aspects that need to be managed for the city in order to create solution for the citizens. At the end was the point, no? And in that sense. So for doing that, we basically the initial idea. Later you will see basically some instantiation of the platform was to create something like okay, we need a platform. Basically, this is the baseline, a platform that over which we can create different kind of services, if you like, the social way to communicate with social network, to create a new office models for the citizens, and in order to reach all the 4 areas that we want to manage. And at the end, in the bottom, we need to integrate all the necessary aspects of the city. So from the municipality services to the parks, lighting system, urban mobility, urban quality, all the different issues that are linked to the city. So that are more linked to the sensorization, if you like, of the city, and how these are going to bring need to be integrated first, and secondly, how they can be used to solve the problem of the citizens, our senses. And for that, basically, our vision from the beginning, and this here is where basically comes, I would say, the interest on the FIWARE stuff, is that we always understood that we need to be able to have a solution that could be open platform, that could be able to support interoperability mechanism, and that's why NGSI for us has been a key player on this definition, because basically the main idea is that at the end we are requesting now to any kind of entity that want to interact with the city or to provide ICT services that they need to interoperate using NGSI LD. Sorry, NGSI, and basically in the future could be NGSI LD as an extension of that one. And at the end, the main idea in that way was to, okay, either from the sensor side, either from the services, either from the existing infrastructure elements, or either from the existing solution that already are being provided in the city, we need to bring them all together. We need to be able to allow the interoperability between all of them, and based on this, being able to create solution to orchestrate basically the flow of information from the different components in order to create solutions that improve the way the city is interacting or with the citizen or inside in order to solve the problems in that sense. Obviously, that also implies create new channels of communication so that we can be more contextualized. The idea is that the citizen can receive information depending on the day of the week, of their interest or different aspects. And additionally, as I already said, to improve the management of the services based on this interoperability and with real-time information that we can have from the different situations. We want to be able to know the situation of the city, and based on this, take decisions at the end, I would say in some sense. And obviously, as I already mentioned, to have this kind of open data that also can help in the future to create new kind of solution in the city. So as I already mentioned, the keywords here are interoperability. So create endpoint for allowing this integration to facilitate the communication mechanism and to support the data exchange between the different entities. So, and now what I'm putting here is quite important. The municipality provide an agreement so that any entity that want to communicate, for example, for the new tenders on the traffic management, of the park maintenance, etc., they need to provide their information, their data. They need to connect on real time using, or at least on certain real time, to the platform in order to supporting NGSI and the data models that we are defining as part of the solution in that sense. So actually, I mean, as I already said, this is part of the strategy that have the city. That is a long-term strategy about where the city needs to move. So in the scenario that actually we are working on the first integration, here you can see some kind of services. So for example, we have already a system that allows the end users, the citizen, to using the mobile device, provide information about incident to the city so that they can report the incident, and they basically they can have a track on the situation of the incident when they are solved, and provide any kind of feedback about that. To create, we have connection to all the buildings of the municipality in order to get information about energy consumption, temperature, humidity, all other aspects. We have information about the traffic management, so we are able to understand which are the roads, the streets that are more congested, and this can be provided to the citizens also at the same time in order to solve problems like traffic. Travel information, for example. We have all the information about the parking spots that are available in the city, so that we also now we are creating some tools that provide you with the probability to find a place depending on the time of the day or the day of the week, and where you want to go based on the information that we are collecting about the usage of the parking spots. In that sense, we have all the information about the rental bikes, where they are available, the number of bikes that are available, and we put all of them on the platform. We have the information about the tram, the bus stops, next bus what is coming, the period of the tram when they are arriving or not to the different tram station. I mean, and different other aspects. So basically, what we have bring is the idea to we have integrate in some case with new sensors, in other case with existing system. So I think one important thing element here has been to integrate the existing infrastructure, for example, for the irrigation that we already have on the city, or the street lighting system. We have they are being integrated now also in the platform. So up to now they were like a standalone, a silo solution, and now they are going to be part of the platform. So at the end, the idea is that through the platform we can have all the information, and also we can manage all these verticals, if you like, with the idea that in some cases there will be interaction between one and the other, and we can take control of this situation, obviously. And we are creating, as a research, channels in order to present the information to the user in the right way. Here you can see, for example, an example that is showing you the situation of a quarter with all the information about the bus, bike, sensors, parking spots that are available on that area. That, for example, can be used on a totem that is being placed on a square that is in that area. So in that way, we personalize the information depending on the context of the situation in this case, because it's an area of the city. At the end, one important piece, and this linked very well with the previous presentation, is that what we want is not only to get the information, we want to be able to take decision over it. And for that, there's an entity that is being created that is called SEOS, that basically is the brain, we call it, of the system, where we want to collect all the information and provide several tools in order to do planning, analysis, so to understand pattern of behavior, to understand how the city is working, and based on this, help the managers of the city to take decision about the different areas that we are covering in that sense. Finally, just to mention, as I already said, this is at the end, it's a FIWARE platform where we are using different enablers. Here you can see main context broker, comment, SICAN, Cygnus, KeyRock for the identity management. We also have integrated some components that we have developed for the enabler from security. In that sense, that help also to increase the data sharing and in a secure way. And at the end, this is the contract is being given to Telefónica in Spain, that is in charge of making the deployment and doing the final development of applications and services in that sense. And just to conclude, one important point that we also always have tried to highlight, and is linked to the use of the open data, is that we want to use this, be able to provide this data, so that the platform and the city as such can be a laboratory for innovation, so that entrepreneurship, innovators can take the information from the city, can try to identify new solution, and in collaboration with citizens, try to create new solution that improve the behavior or the living of the citizens in our place. So that's all mostly what I want to say. So I think it's, as I said, one key word here is interoperability, and that is being provided because we are using using NSGI as the interface, and it is clearly that we need a platform like this one that allow us to generate and create different kind of solution that at the end can cope with the kind of needs of a city like Murcia. It's 500,000 in that sense. That's all from my side. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Antonio, and thank you for trying to wrap up everything in 10 minutes. I know that is difficult. Definitely, for sure, next time I fly to Spain, I'm going to visit you there to see, because yeah, I see a lot of interesting projects that should be also, replicated around the world. Thank you very much. So just one remark, as we are going a little bit out of time, we ask the audience to be placing again the questions in the chat. All the speakers from the second part of our event will be replying directly in the chat or in privately, so we can gain time with this. Our last guest today, now we are flying to South America, to Uruguay. Heber Assaf has an MBA in strategic management, and he is now the regional service director at Arnaldo de Castro and director at Lideco Commercial Defense League in Montevideo, Uruguay. We invite you, Heber, to take your place here on the stage, and yeah, the microphone is yours. We cannot hear you.
Are you hear me?
Yeah, now we can.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much. Well, thank you for this great presentation. We really appreciate this invitation, and it's an honor, a pleasure to join and to participate in this prestigious event. For us, it's a recognition as a country and as a company for the work we have been doing, and particularly our commitment with FIWARE. I want to congratulate the other speaker in this section, in this part of the event, and we really had a very interesting presentation. I will go quickly in this first part in order to have some time to offer for the other slides. My name is Heber Assaf, and as I told you, I have been working for more than 40 years in the company, so I have the opportunity not just to see the evolution of the technology, but at the same time to see and to lead the evolution of a city. So the topic of this event is a very interesting challenge for us to talk about what our country is doing in this part of the world. First of all, let me introduce my company. We are so far from you, and I decided to dedicate a couple of slides to show my company. We are a regional integrator with more than 83 years of presence in Uruguay, with offices of course, in Uruguay is where we have our headquarters, Argentina, and in Paraguay, and we have more than 400 specialists dedicated. We offer a complete portfolio of solution products and services, and in particular, we have an innovation and new technology division where our commitment to IoT and smart cities stand out. We have been working with FIWARE for more than 5 years with our strategic partner Engineering from Italy, with whom we have implemented the first certified FIWARE platform in Latin America. This was in a government telecommunication company. The name is Antel. We also have carry out a specific event with the presence of our foundation management team, and we have become an IHAB for Uruguay. Okay, here in this. In this slide, you can see a full scope of solutions from hardware, software, development, project, data centers, ERP, CRM, artificial intelligence, many among others, which allow us to solve, deliver, and cover all the needs and requirements of our customers. Okay, so the objective of my presentation is to present some principles and key concepts on which smart cities and sustainable models are based on the relationship they have with inclusive innovation. We have had excellent speakers, and they have commented on these topics. Anyway, I want to reinforce those concepts and emphasize some key components. Let's start saying that there is a clear trend toward migration to urban cities. As a result, urban areas are becoming increasingly congested, and of course, population growth. Urbanization brings advantages, but also challenges. For example, more demand in basic resources like water, energy, education, security, among others. So we can say that social, economic, and environmental issues are strongly connected. And the next question will be, how can cities become sustainable? So to try to answer this question and try to find a way to become sustainable, let's share with you that Gartner point out that what really matters when we approach the small city concept is how different sectors, not just public sector, cooperate and how they can exchange value information. Of course, there is technology involved in this process, but this is not enough to make cities smart. Cooperation requires strong governments and a roadmap. Another key ingredient is inclusive innovation that we will see in the next slide. So start saying that open government is a bridge of dialogue, a space for the construction of consensus between society and government, promoting transparency, fighting corruption, and empowering citizens. For example, initiatives such as the Alliance for Open Government, for the acronyms in English, arise with the purpose of providing an international platform for domestic reforming commitment to making their government accountable and more open. But cooperation and information exchange are central ideas in a smart city. These ideas are shared with the open software movement. And open source software is a valuable source technologies, application, and solution for smart city, but also offered with a culture of sharing and reuse. This generates a high level of trust for public and private institutions of any kind. So we can say that the key formula is to combine open government with open source technologies. So let's say something about inclusive innovation. A smart city is one that places people at the center of the development, which we could define as citizen-centric. The conjunction of smart cities and inclusive innovation as an urban management strategy is what allows economic, social, and environmental development to improve the quality of life and equality of citizenship. Here, inclusive innovation refers to the potential of technology innovation in order to benefit certain social groups or regions that are excluded or marginalized. The challenge of the innovation process is to make them more socially inclusive. That is, find new better ways to respond to social needs. The challenge here, again, is to make technology an engine of development. So, as I told you, we are so far from you. So let me comment some characteristics of one country, Uruguay, and in particular the capital, Montevideo. Montevideo is in the process of developing an evolution toward a smart city. Take into account that we are no more than 3.5 million people. So although we are a small country, it should be noted that we have a fiber optic, fiber to the home coverage network that reaches almost the entire country, as well as a submarine cable connection to the United States that, combined with the digitalization of our communications, offer one of the highest transmission speed in Latin America. In turn, telephone company Entel, that is, as I told you, is a government company, uses FIWARE platform and was the first certified FIWARE platform in Latin America. As mentioned, we have carried out this implementation with the extraordinary support of our strategic partner engineer, whom we must thank to allow us to enter in the FIWARE world. Another very important note is the municipality of Montevideo, which also has FIWARE as a main platform, where the mobility center stand out for the control and management in real time of the city traffic. As an example of the government plan, several projects and initiatives to develop smart village and smart cities in some cities of the country are under analysis. Also, an idea was recently presented to start working to achieve a smart port for the port of Montevideo, which, due to its geographical location, represents a strategic logistic hub for the region. The strategy that government choose is what is defined in our term as public-private participation, PPP, also in Spanish. This has made it possible to increase the contribution of private companies to be part of the transformation of the city. Just to finish, I think I was very quick. Let me finish with this statement about how we consider will be the next frontier. Basically, is the predictive city. We believe that predictive analytics will be the next frontier to achieve maximum expression of a smart city, where incident, events, and etc. can be anticipated, and the result will be an improvement in quality of life, allowing more informed decision time. We think that the success factor in the prediction will be the indicator and driver of the development of true smart cities. So we can conclude that the smart and sustainable city initiative based on open government and open source technology, together with inclusive innovation, are presented as a strategy that promote a new urban management that allows social inclusion, where in particular technology spill over the entire society and activities. This is my overview to this topic, and in this way I'm finishing my presentation. Again, I would like to thank FIWARE team for this great event. Thank you very much.
Heber, thank you very much, and you were precise 10 minutes. Fantastic. Huh? They tell that us Latin Americans, we are not so good in timing. Today you were fantastic. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, well, as I said, we are reaching. I mean, we have just reached our final speaker. We are going to keep the chat, and all the questions will be forward as we are running out of time. And I would like to give some time now to our hosts from FIWARE, Ulrich and Cristina, to do the wrap up and, well, to end this fantastic event. I was just counting here. We have been through 8 countries today. So if you had to travel to see these people and to learn about these projects, it would take us more than 40,000 kilometers flying. So yeah, we got to do a lot in 2 hours. So Cristina and Ulrich, the stage is yours. Thank you very much again for hosting us today.
Yeah, it's on me to thank you very much. And first of all, thank you very much, Renato de Castro, for your excellent moderation, keeping the whole bunch, the whole world in time and guiding us through this very, very interesting, also for me, very interesting event. And we have a range of, have had a range of outstanding speakers we saw here from different countries, as you mentioned, from different continents. And for me, it is impressive how the technology, how the standards which were developed in the FIWARE ecosystem have been adopted by the European Commission, but also around the globe. We saw examples from Japan, from India, from North America, from South America, and only Africa was missing. But next time, I think we will also get examples from Africa. And we saw that cities are becoming more and more important. More and more people will live in the future in cities. And finally, digitization, open standards, and interoperability will be the key transformation drivers for cities, using the capabilities of digitization to be able to optimize the operation of the city and to improve the quality of life of their citizens. And public administrations need to jump onto this bandwagon, as they are engines for economic recovery and social transformation. Recovery means also managing the burdens of the COVID-19 situation we do have, where we see in some areas really challenges also for digitization projects which are stopped. The sidewalk project in Toronto is a good example, stopped due to COVID-19. On the other hand, a lot of digitization activities started to be better able to manage the effects of COVID-19. So in total, we as a FIWARE ecosystem, we are able to contribute to this development in the cities, in the area of smart cities. And from my side, thank you very much again to the moderator, to all speakers, but also to the whole marketing team of the FIWARE Foundation, who has prepared this session, led in for this session by Angeles Tellado, who did the introduction this morning. And now handing over to our Chief Marketing Officer, Cristina, for the closing words. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Ulrich. Thank you very much. And I think we can go ahead with the next slide. This is closing remarks, but it doesn't mean they are less important, because we just want to stress once more that we have really a great project just in front of us, and you can contribute all to this, which is a worldwide top catalog of the smartest cities in the world, running open source and best obviously running FIWARE. We know we are on all continents. We know many cities where we are already implemented, but as this is the nature of open source, there is cities using FIWARE that we are not really yet knowing. So please let us know if you have anywhere close by a project that you heard about it, or where you even contributed yourself or followed an implementation. And you know, you can drop us an email, or even better, just fill in our little survey. It's really just a few minutes. We ask you for your contribution. And of course, there's also a little goodie for this. If you do so before December 15, we will guarantee you get into a Smart City Catalog book that we are preparing in January. Okay, so we'll be promoting this a little bit more. You don't need to lose or register this link, but if you can register it now, make a copy and just click on it and help us creating this catalog that will help all the cities in the world. And referring here to what we've seen with Yasunori before, he was talking a lot about city-to-city collaboration, and you know, this catalog can help in this too, as you will see how other cities work in this environment. There is a few more events coming up, and this was the second Smart Cities event. We will have more of them, but we obviously look also into other industries where FIWARE is very much active, and this is about agri-food industry and also mobility. So pencil that down in your agenda. They're shortly upcoming, and we're not stopping this year. There will be more coming up next year too. Said that, I know we ran a little bit late, but I have the chance to close the session in time, just focusing on one more thing. And this means stay in contact with us or get in contact with us. You know, we have many areas where we invite you to collaborate, or to be in our marketplace, or in our material, or even on stage with us at different events like the one today. And here is all the contacts. And of course, the session is registered, so you can get all these contacts once more if you just go to our YouTube channel afterwards. Said that, thank you very much for our media partners that are, in this case, Business Reporter, Compass List, Smart Cities World is one of our latest ones, and Zoom Global Smart Cities. And we couldn't make it without them, and obviously without all the great speakers we had today and our super moderator. So thanks once more, Renato. Always happy to have you around us, and I think I can speak for all of us. Hopefully we'll see each other soon in a face-to-face event. And so until then, we do it digitally, and this means not less great content, but just through another channel. So thank you very much for attending, and I hand over for the very, very last words to Renato again. Thank you.
Thank you, Cristina and Ulrich. It was really a pleasure. Next time I want to be a speaker, to have my 15 minutes, because I have a lot also to speak. Sometimes being here, moderating, I really try myself to not speak so much. But yeah, we got it to do. We finished on time. Thank you very much, everyone that was following us. And again, everything is about networking. FIWARE is about network and collaboration. So contact with us, and yeah, give your piece of contribution that we can